Welcome to another My Blue Bricks Real Estate podcast. And whoa, today blew my mind. It's about cryptocurrency. Everyone knows about it, but don't really know about it. And I'm the same example of that. Today we're talking again with Sergey and Adnan that you now know from 2 episodes before. We're talking normally about mindset, entrepreneur topics, and today about the cryptocurrency topic. And why? Because Adnan is having a crypto school in which he teaches and shows people how to first understand what cryptocurrency really is. And then also the second is how to invest in cryptocurrency. Okay, and this is going to be a crash course today about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about just the move or the merge that has been happening, I have to say, in Ethereum from the proof of work to proof to stake. Well, if you have been hearing about that but don't really know what it actually means, this is a good session to listen to. A lot of good content and I'm getting really excited about it. As you can see, listen to this podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you like, what you want to hear and know more of. And we will adjust our thinking, our ideas to the future to you. Sit back, relax, get comfortable because this show is good. Let's go. Okay, welcome everyone. We're here today with another podcast. Familiar faces by now already. Adnan and Sergey, thanks for being here. Again, guys, good to be here. Good to be together and talk about the normally mindset entrepreneur stuff. And today we're going to talk about crypto. All right. Everyone knows crypto, but everyone doesn't really understand what crypto is. I'm most likely the best example of that. I'm investing in crypto. I think that I know what it is, but I think I'm still a dummy and there's a lot of things still to learn. It's quite complex, so I think I'm not the only one. Sergey, can you relate to what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. It's since the beginning, it's something that we doubt about, then we read, we understand a little bit more, and then we're like, okay, now I understand, and then you ask yourself a couple of more questions, and no, I don't really. It's complex. It's complex.
It's complex shit, and at the same point, it's the future, right? Adnan, you're always saying that, and we already have been talking about that. You know a lot about it. So we wanted to use this session today. Let's see how far we come to do a crash course for all the people listening, just as us, to just understand it a little bit better. Okay. For example, and Adnan, well, you know more about that. My first question that I have is, lately, to me, cryptocurrency is moving or acting more as normal stocks. There's not that much exciting things happening where people were used to high ups, low downs, a lot of high ups. What do you think? What do you think of these? You're talking with a lot of people most like us.
It's super interesting, the observation you made, because that's something we've been observing pretty much since the top of the market, which was in November last year. So what was unique about crypto market, was that it was not moving along with the stock market. It was living its own life. But as crypto has been growing over the years, if you asked 4 or 5 years ago, you asked JP Morgan, you asked the big banks, they would be like, no to crypto. But now a lot of institutional investors are coming into the picture. A lot of big money, smart money as we call it, is coming in. And because of that is becoming more in line with the macroeconomic factors which is happening. So we've seen now that, economically we are in very, very uncertain place at the moment, and same as with crypto. So we see that because there's so much money coming into crypto. So now what we see is that market has been going down, but the volumes are high, right? The people are trading, whether there's buy or sell. So that's what it's getting adopted by the bank, by the big guys, and that's why it's getting aligned with everything else.
I get it. Hey, and before maybe going really into this crash course in cryptocurrency, could you explain a little bit why we're asking you, Adnan, about this topic?
Yeah, so you're asking me this because I have 15-year experience in actually trading. I've been working for banks, etc. So I know this whole financial world, but I've actually not looked at crypto so much. It was just recently 2 years ago, a little bit less even. But when I saw this potential, not only financially, but what it can bring to the whole world, it got me super excited. And obviously with my experience and stuff, I caught on this whole thing, understanding the concepts and everything. And then I created something called the Crypto School, which is my company in Norway, where I help Norwegians with crypto trading, responsible crypto trading. Yeah. So that's where we're speaking today.
Cool. Okay. So where should we start? Where should we start, Sergey? Is that because we're talking about cryptocurrency, but the real fundamental thing is blockchain there, right? That is exactly the layer. So where should we start, Sergey? What would be the first question
I think that's a good start. I think also where we started with the stocks, it's interesting because I also observed, and before it's true that they were saying, well, cryptocurrencies are moving the opposite of the stocks, right? It was like this kind of trend, and now it's aligned. So it's good to understand first why it's like this now. But I think it would be nice to understand first of all why is there a need for cryptocurrency, right? Why was it created? Because even though there's certain uncertainties, but those uncertainties, I guess, they're related to maybe specific coins or specific market platforms, but it's not about the concept, right? The concept is really clear, and the concept is even used by the governments now, that they're creating their own cryptocurrencies, right, with the same concept. So this is I think the base. This fundament is really interesting. This about blockchain, I guess.
So I think Bitcoin started in 2009 or 2008 when they started developing it, but it was an answer to the global financial crisis. It was to how capital was spread around the economy. So if we go a little bit back in history, in the 1500s, there was the East Indian Dutch Company, which for the first time started giving out shares to the normal people. Before that time, it was only individual wealthy owners. So what we saw there, which was like 500 years ago, a little bit more, is that there was a more even distribution of capital in the population. I'm not saying that everyone had the money to do it, but it was a huge revolution in how money was distributed. Now, there hasn't been like a big revolution like that. I come into discussions sometimes that, people talk about like credit cards and all of these things, but that's more of an evolution, right? Because it's really a transfer of value, and how credit cards and all of this, it's more of an evolution. But the revolution is coming now because it's how actually you as a person or you as a company can own your data. And why is that so important? Well, it is important because like I said, it was an answer for the global financial crisis. And actually, before I just go, let me explain a little bit about blockchain, because I think that will give a little bit more perspective. So blockchain, very simply put, it's what we call a distributed ledger. It's a technology, but ledger, it's where if you have a company, you see their balance after a sale cost, right? But what's amazing about this is the ledger, but it's distributed, right? So it means that it's distributed all across the world on computers, known as nodes, okay? And this is the hardcore thing about blockchain, is that it's distributed, so it's decentralized. So it's not one entity. So if you go a little bit back, I don't know how much it has been in Europe, but I know in the US it's been a huge problem of trusting the banks in Europe as well. But I'm talking from a consumer point of view. And truth be told, when you're in your bank, you're making transfers and stuff like that, they own that data. It's not yours. They own that data. So in theory, they could do whatever they would want with it.
And you're not even calling it money, you're calling it data.
Yeah. So I use data.
Because in the end, it is data, right? Because yes, it's
100%.
It's seen as money, but a lot of times they do that as well, right? Banks are also investing your money that you put in the bank. That's the idea. Because they know that a lot of people put it on a bank but will not use it. So there's a lot of trading going on without actually maybe that the money that's on your bank account is on the bank account. So then it becomes more than data.
Because what does banks do when you have money on your account? They take your money, although your number is still physically there, and they loan it, right? That's how banks earn money, by you having money in their house, let's say, right? So So basically, what does this bring? It brings a more fairer distribution of capital to everyone by owning your own data. And I want to explain, because maybe not everyone understands when we talk about distributed ledger, but I always give this example. So think of, you have a ship, right? And the ship it has an anchor, and it throws the anchor into the sea, right? And what is between the anchor and the ship is chains, right? So if you think about that anchor as the first transaction ever made, and you think about the different chains, think about the different chains as pieces of information. Now, if someone is so now every transaction which happens, a new chain is kind of added, so the chain is getting longer. But if anyone was to fuck with this chain, if anyone wants to do anything, that chain would break down, right? And everyone would know that there's something wrong in the thing. And this is the idea of the blockchain, that is first of all, it's permanent because it's on a chain, like all transactions are permanent. It's decentralized because everyone pretty much know, and no one really owns that data. And super important, which has been its biggest struggle of the banks, is transparency. It's transparent. Yeah. It's on, this data is on this chain. Everyone can physically actually see it. Yeah.
So I have a question, because this is interesting. So we speak about technology as information, but I also think that this was born not out of nowhere, right? It's also because the current currencies people have doubts about it, right? Like the way we print money, the way it's managed, the way it's distributed. It's a bit strange, no? Like
So I will have to kind of correct you a little bit there, because I think that people who are looking at cryptocurrency, and it's in the word currency, right? Yeah. When you're talking about that, you're purely talking about Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency which has two functions: transfer money, store money, or value. Let's call it value, right? Some sort of value, right? But cryptocurrency is so much more than that. But this is the misconception. Why? Because we're so early in this stage. So if Bitcoin is the biggest cryptocurrency with the biggest market cap, but then you have Ethereum, which is right behind, which is so much more than just stored value. So I can, if you guys don't mind, I'll explain a little bit, very simply, what Ethereum is. So Ethereum has those two functions of Bitcoin: store of value and transferring value. But it's also, let's call it an operative system for other apps. What does that mean? That means that at Ethereum, let's say you have your phone, you go into Google Apps, right? Think of Google Apps as Ethereum, right? And inside Google Apps, there's hundreds of developers producing their apps, whether that's health, whether that's financial, whatever that is, right? So that's what Ethereum does. So when we talk about like other cryptocurrencies, a lot of cryptocurrencies, they're on Ethereum and not on their own blockchain. So yes, I agree. Like with Bitcoin, it's always a discussion, like, will it take over the national currencies and stuff? But I really believe that's the wrong discussion to have.
Yeah. So would you say like Ethereum is like more like a set of tools?
Yeah, I mean,
a set of tools with which you can create any app or any technology, any platform, all these things like this, based on the blockchain technology, right?
Exactly. But then Ethereum should be more valuable or more applicable, and that's why more. Is it then because Bitcoin is more popular and everyone knows Bitcoin? Most people, like you're saying, thinking that cryptocurrency is Bitcoin and not the other way around. So, but then
why is Bitcoin so big, right?
Yeah,
there's only one reason for that. It's because we're so early. And
it was the first then? Was it the first?
It was the first one. 2009, Ethereum was in 2015. But we're just so early. So, the whole crypto market, I would say for the general people who's not really into it, they see Bitcoin as crypto and crypto as Bitcoin. So but we're early, but yeah.
Would you say like maybe the term of cryptocurrency is misleading then? Because it's not about currency. It's not about only currency.
So what is currency? So then we have to define currency. Currency means that you have something of value that you will trade to someone else. and they will give you some kind of value back. That's a currency. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be money value, right? Yeah. So all of these currencies, they bring some value. Not all of these. Probably 95% of the crypto which exists today will fail again because we're super early. But that's another discussion. But we are just it holds some kind of value, and that's what currencies does, right? They hold some kind of value. So I think whether it's misleading can be like if you're not like looking really into it. But anything with a value is a currency, and there's a demand for it, right? There's a demand for it, and there's enough to trade, and that's what crypto is bringing to the market.
Cool. Nice.
Okay, so Bitcoin, Ethereum. By the way, Ethereum just had a big thing that it went from proof of
proof of work to proof of stake. I'll explain you this. So the biggest challenge of Bitcoin, the biggest things that all the haters are hating on Bitcoin for good reasons is its harm to the environment, right? So think about it, right? Blockchain, like I said, it's decentralized. No one really controls it.
By the way, before going there, it's a harm to the environment because of all the data centers that they use.
I'm about to explain this.
Energy, right? Energy consumption.
Okay.
So this is the thing, right? So in order for this whole blockchain things to be decentralized, who is validating these transactions, right? When a transaction happens from Urban, let's say from me to you, who is in between? If there's no banks or nothing, so and how is this done? So this is done by a concept called proof of work, which is a consensus system. A consensus system is a way of deciding of who is to validate a transaction on the blockchain. Now, for proof of work, the traditional one, how could you validate this? By having energy, like data power, basically. The more data power you have, the more likely you are able to validate a transaction. And validators, once they have validated a transaction, they get paid, right? So it's a business. The middleman, it's kind of like a business. So because it's a business, it's competition. Now there's a lot of people in this business. So what makes you win? The more data power you have, right? That's back to your question. That's why you'll see, I don't know if you've seen in the news, like these huge data houses with servers and all of these things. And for us who's all worked in HPE, we know that one of the biggest things is cooling of servers and things like that, right? It's the biggest energy consumption. So this was a huge problem. Now what we see is that the newer cryptocurrency who are on their own blockchain, they will never do that proof of work. Why would they do that? Because it's getting so much hate. So they do something called proof of stake. And this is exactly, going back to your question, this is what Ethereum wanted. Ethereum is a big crypto, and they want to change. And it's a big change. It's not like a simple thing. It's super complex. It's something which has been going on for 5 years now. And it's been delayed. But it happened on the 15th of September, where they moved from proof of work to proof of stake. Now, what is proof of stake then, right?
Yeah.
So proof of stake, again, consensus mechanism. We need to find who can actually verify these transactions. But instead of having these huge computer data centers, it's actually individuals who just have a computer and the software who can validate a transaction. So you're using much less energy, right? Much less energy. And now people or these companies who are using proof of stake, they can scale at a much faster rate, because it's hard to scale with so many data servers and all of this thing, especially it's so bad for the planet. So proof of stake, it was completed on the 15th, and this is the reason why Ethereum did it. Well, they will of course, because of planetary reason, but environmental reasons. But when you're talking about environmental reasons, it's actually because for you to grow. Because if you have environmental problems, you're not going to grow as fast. It's all about scalability in the end.
And the validation of the transactions, right? That is the thing with cryptocurrency, is then still done in a decentralized way, even in the proof of work way and in the proof of stake way. So that is not changing. Only the way is changing of who.
I don't want to go too deep on this because this is like a big dilemma about Ethereum now. So they're saying, right, like the whole core of blockchain is that it's decentralized. But if you're now of proof of stake, if you have a lot of validators, all of these validators, isn't that power going to the validators? Now, I told you, right, for proof of work, you needed a lot of data power. But in proof of stake, it's all about how much of that coin you actually own. So the more Ethereum coins you own and you are a validator, the more likely you are able to earn money and by completing the transaction.
And I need to think about it. I will maybe listen to the session then again to then really have an idea of what you were saying there. At the same moment, they were saying that with this change of proof of stake, that the generation of more Ethereans is getting more. It's not growing that much, and therefore, or the Ethereum units or coins is not growing that much, and therefore they're thinking that the value will increase. The same is what's happening with Bitcoin, right? Because there's not an unlimited amount of Bitcoin; there's a limited amount of Bitcoin, right? Or is that now the same happening in Ethereum?
No, so Ethereum doesn't have a limited supply. Okay. So this is a very, very different picture. I think that if I was to make a comparison, and it's a very basic comparison and it's not very, very deep, but I would say Ethereum is where Bitcoin was 3-4 years ago. It's so fresh. If you took a look at the market cap of these two blockchains, Bitcoin is Ethereum's half of what Bitcoin is worth today, approximately. So yeah. Hey,
another thing. So Ethereum have not been increasing in value since that change. Well, if you think about it, it would be a positive impact, also good for the environment. So people maybe will be more likely to invest in it. It hasn't been really increasing. And they were saying it can go either both ways. It can go down a little bit or up.
Absolutely. So the thing is, like, the Ethereum, is called the Merge. This event was called the Merge, and it was so highly anticipated that I believe that the price of it was already priced in. It was already priced in. Now there were two type of investors. There's the one who believed that the Merge can really just fuck up, and if it fucked up, it would just fall in price. Then there were those people who believe that, you know what, Ethereum, we're here for long term and we see it as a long term thing, and it's already been priced in. So I don't think that it's not like we're going to see it immediately, like, okay, boom, it goes high up like that. But it's more like we're going to see it on the long term. Basically, Ethereum has a roadmap. They're on track on their roadmap, basically, and we will see the prices grow accordingly. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? Maybe a little bit different question, because this is something at least I read a lot in the news recently, and one of the other criticism of cryptocurrencies is that right now there's a lot of people saying, well, cryptos are serving for the bad guys, for trafficking, for criminals to trade and all this stuff. What do you think about that? Is that even true? Because sometimes these news they're clearly directed by the government, and which they just want to weaken
So I think that first 8-7 years of Bitcoin, of course there was going to be that. It's so new. It was what's a little bit shame, the crypto or Bitcoin is getting more and more regulated, right? It's getting more and more regulated. So I think that in the beginning, yes, it was more illegal transaction happening on the blockchain. But I think that is just such a small part which is happening. It's like a 5% of happening of the whole spectrum. Exactly. And you know how the news are, right? If you don't really, the general news is like, if you don't really understand it, you're going to probably criticize it, because that's when you have like the news thing. But But yeah, there will always be, right? There will always be like,
and they always focus on negative things. They find one negative thing and they focus on that. So that brings me to my second question, actually, because I'm thinking, why wouldn't, if it's so interesting as a technology and decentralized, it's going completely to the opposite of the concept of a state, right? Of government state. So why wouldn't the government say, well, you know what, we also create a crypto that we will use for our people, and this decentralized stuff is too risky for people. Like, what does it mean, decentralized? Because I was watching a podcast about this, and the guy was explaining that, for example, the English government, they have a team set up, basically, special team that focuses on what they call social projects. So one of those were during COVID, like all these lockdowns and passport control. In UK you don't really have an ID card, so they wanted to introduce an ID card to test, but people were against that because it's one of the signs of freedom for them, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of other projects they're working on intensively is creating a crypto, government crypto, right? It's like going completely the opposite of the concept, because then it would be against centralized, but a crypto, the same technology. And they say, and because of that, they would control everything, right? Today we have even a little bit of cash, and as we said in the beginning, it's information on the bank account. We don't know what they're doing with this. Then with crypto, it's going to be all there and all 100% controlled. So he was saying, for example, potentially, if you would criticize the government, you would be against, for example, because you have a different opinion on, I don't know, weapons control, subject like this, or you would criticize the current president or prime minister. They were saying that they would be even able to, for example, block your currencies, and say, well, you can't, or say, hey, Adnan, it's bad for you to eat McDonald's too often, so we're gonna limit. You cannot use your cryptos in McDonald's more than once a month, something like this, because we think that it's good for your health. So all these things that brings up,
Yeah. So I want to, from what you said, two things. So what you're referring to is what we call for CBDC, so central bank digital currencies. I'm not following it in each country, but I'm obviously following that in Norway. There's a big news which came up that the central bank in Norway, they had their first test, like a test of users and how it's working. And they're actually using the Ethereum blockchain for doing that. So it's a little bit funny. But I find it personally, really, really scary. Because why, again, right? What happens when capital is distributed more evenly, right? Who's printing the money? It's the government, right? So it's all about distributing of power. And now if governments are losing power, they're going to be like, no, we need to control this shit, right? So we're going to create our own currency. So I find that really scary. How that will go, it's so they didn't really, these different digital currencies of the central banks, none of them are really developed, it's not really out there, but I find it a really scary concept. But
is it based on the same technology, what they're developing, like blockchain technology?
Not all. So okay. I cannot speak for other countries, but the Norwegian one, but it's funny, it's a little bit... it's a little bit ironic. They're using the Ethereum network to do that, but I don't know in different countries, to be fair. But like you said, right, they want to control, like you said, the McDonald's example, maybe 2 times, but they cannot do that. This is the beautiful thing about this whole cryptocurrency world, is that governments, they can put regulations, they can do regulations, create their own currencies, whatever, but cryptos can never be physically banned. It can never be physically banned. It cannot be controlled controlled that way, So because it can be physically banned in that sense, it's a little bit, I see some governments, which will be cool, but more in South America and development countries, they are trying more to adapt to it, right? They're more trying to adapt to it and see how not necessarily how they can fight it, but how they can as well become joined in this and keep their power, right? But this whole discussion, man, it's about power. It's about how power is weighed.
Exactly.
Because you got to remember, the governments, they are deciding the rules. The banks, they're the ones who's printing the money. It's all about power.
So if it's a country that has a weak currency, I guess it would be interesting for them to maybe adopt that and be part of it and want to be. But for government like US, that basically their power is built on dollar. They're gonna go do 100% against, right?
For sure. But this is the thing, right? Going back to a little bit earlier, I think that this whole currency only as a transfer of value, that discussion is going to be very different 10 years, because like I said, crypto is going to be so much more than just that, I believe.
Okay.
It's listening just to the questions and how you're explaining it. We're, like you're saying, a lot of things, we're so in the beginning phase of a new thing happening, right? I mean, where do you think we are? And this is going to be the future, yes or yes, right? This is not something to avoid. This is going to revolutionize everything, most likely. And we're not seeing maybe 1% of what is, because it's all kind of there. We're trying to understand. Nobody really understands. Well, you understand it better than us. But to really that is going to be, applied in everyday life, it's still not there.
No, absolutely not. If I was going to give you a little bit perspective, like, the internet, it became really commercialized in the early 90s, right? In the end of 90s, sorry. But Amazon, Google, these companies didn't exist. Like, internet was like starting in 1990, but these didn't exist until the end of 90s, right? 10 years. So the big players, which people thought were not the big players which were in the future, right? This is why I said earlier, 95% of the cryptocurrencies right now, it's going to change. It's going to change. People are a lot of cryptocurrencies are going to fail, and of course, one thing about crypto is that, it's known for, there's a lot of scams, and there is, it's very new. So that's how early we are. We haven't even seen, we're thinking about Bitcoin and stuff, but in 10 years, we have another cryptocurrency who's top, maybe Ethereum, maybe not even Ethereum. So that's how early we are in this whole process. That's why it's so hard to see the difference between the internet and blockchain. The difference is one thing. It's internet itself. So when internet started, there was no internet. People were not talking. It was not the level of global communication wasn't there. But when you got cryptocurrency and Bitcoin coming in 2009, internet is already existing. So there's more speculation. There's more talk about it. There's more opinions about it. More people hear about it, right? That's what I see as the big difference. Exactly. I really believe we're so damn early in this whole process.
Hey, the web, you're talking now about the internet, and they're calling it sometimes Web 3.0, which I didn't really understand. You explained it to me lately. I think I already forgot it a little bit. That's the
Web 0.3. What is this concept? So we firstly had Web 0.1, which was basically in the 90s, where we saw that internet as it was just a form of actually gaining information. So you had output from the internet, right? And then in the 2000s and until pretty much now, it's been input and output. So we talk about banks, you can do transactions, financial services, government services. You have social media, which has been a huge game changer in this whole world. So you have input and output. But now the challenge with that is that, again, we talked about data. They own that data. So the Web 0.3, it's all about input, output, but no one is really owning your data. So it becomes a fairer game, a fair playing field, basically. Super interesting. And with Web 0.3, if we talk about Web 0.3, Ethereum is going to also, Ethereum again, it's a huge player in this whole Web 0.3 space.
And what does it really mean then? For somebody now listening like me, so you're saying it's becoming more fair, it's becoming more open, but what does that really mean? Can you be more practical? That what does, for example, then what can that do with is that going to change a social media platform or
So how Facebook, one of the biggest companies in the world, how do they earn money, right? They are actually
with your
selling
data. Yeah.
with your data, right?
Yeah.
This is why we're talking about data in the very, very beginning, right? And then one thing is that they're earning money with the data and it's a business, but another thing is that people are feeling privacy, right? Like who's actually watching this data, Who is Facebook selling this data to? Is it the governments? Is it to other companies so they can now take advantage of that data and try to maybe sell you something? So it's all about. I mean, I think you guys also maybe even know this better than me, but the importance of data and the value of data is just becoming so crucial in technology. Yeah. The information, because you can have chaos. But what Facebook does, they take that chaos, they structure this data nicely, they package it in, and they sell it on, basically. And
so
people
it will
doesn't
be
want
Facebook.
that.
Facebook, the new Facebook will be in Web 3.0, but then Facebook is not owning the data anymore. So their big money earning system, like it is right now, that wouldn't be possible.
No, exactly. So this is where it's super interesting, because Facebook, actually, I don't know why we're calling it Facebook. I called it Facebook, but they're called Meta. Right? Meta. And they're entering something called Metaverse, which I'm not going to touch upon now. But it's really interesting how they're going to be moving around in this space. Of course, they're now trying to make everything digital, right? Like with meetings, having virtual worlds, and all of these things. But it's going to be interesting with Facebook how they're going to do it, because one thing you have to remember, like I said, is everyone. So this is one of the biggest challenges of crypto in general, is that all of these companies, most of these big blockchain projects, they're on their own blockchains, right? So if you think about one blockchain as one world, and then another blockchain another world, and they're not really communicating, right? That's why a lot of companies are using other people's blockchain, right? So this is why I said Ethereum is super, super interesting as in the beginning, because at Ethereum, as an operative system, now companies, developers are going to create social media projects. They're going to call financial projects like decentralized finance, which is quite a big thing as well. All of these will be on Ethereum. And that's why Ethereum is just super... It has so much potential, and that's why I'm super excited about Ethereum. Yeah.
Hey,
but
sorry, go ahead.
Just what's your opinion on Ethereum, like specifically? I know that we are early in the stage, and you said that 95% of cryptos will probably change. But do you think Ethereum has a chance to stand as a big player, or you think it's just like a testing period right now, and we just see how it goes, because it can go either way, right? You don't know, of course, but what's your opinion?
Yeah, so if you ask like an internet expert in the early 90s about a specific company, I don't know, I cannot come up with a name, and said, hey, what do you think about... Yeah, for example, right? Do you think this is the future? For everyone would say that, Nokia is one of the biggest mobile phone providers in the world. Right? Like same with Kodak and these companies, right? So because I know the little history and learning from history, it's so hard to make conclusions. Right now, I would say yes, like Ethereum is amazing. It has so many functionalities. It has its challenges with scalability, etc., but it's amazing.
But people invest, right? Like government are investing right now money to develop these applications on Ethereum.
So it will be a big player, and I get what you're...
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I expect Ethereum. Let's be a little bit narrow-minded and say that there's not coming so many new players into the game. I really believe that Ethereum will take over Bitcoin. I truly believe that. It's just a matter of time. This is actually... In the crypto world, we call this the flippening, because Bitcoin from the start, from the history, it's been the first and the biggest, right? So I really do believe that. But again, I'm super open-minded about this. It's not like I cannot just conclude now. Again, concluding way too early. But I'm super bull on this, right? I'm super optimistic about Ethereum, because just seeing what it can do, like I said, it's revolutionizing a little bit some spaces, right? So it will revolutionize finance in many ways, because we have something called decentralized finance, how people can borrow money, etc., etc. like we already talked about, Ethereum is going to be a big player on the internet front, right? It's revolution. It's going to be revolutionizing because it's a operative system. There's a lot of companies will start making their projects on Ethereum for the Web 0.3. So it's exciting. They're big guys, huh? They're big guys, and I think this Vitalik Buterin, which is the CEO. He like what he said about the merge, like which happened on the 15th. He said, "Don't expect too much from it. You know, we're just on the roadmap, basically. Yes, we're late. We're like 2, 3, 4 years late, but we're on track." So again, there's going to be so much bumps on the way, man. That's why I don't know. I cannot foresee the bumps. There are going to be so much, but let's see who in the end is the winners and losers.
Now we know a little bit about cryptocurrency, about Bitcoin and Ethereum. What do you think of deep diving a little bit more into the topic in the next session? Going into what you're saying, for example, investing in it, or how can you invest in it? Can it be hacked? I got some news articles that it was hacked. To go a little bit more do that in deep dive that we now know better because we have the base. But then for next session, for now to end this session, what will be some practical tips for beginners, just like Sergey, or at least for me that I know for sure, or the people listening, how they can get started in the cryptocurrency world if they would like to take part? Is that in a project, or is it investing in some coins, or what do you think?
Yeah. So I think there's a few factors you have to consider for investing in crypto. I would always say that you should be invested in, it depends on your investment amount, right? So of your total investment capital. So when I'm talking about investment capital, I'm talking about real estate investment, stock investments, materials like gold and stuff, and then crypto. Like of your total investment capital, like you can start something from 5%. You start off with 5%. That's like how much I would start off with. Now, how much, when?
Of your complete portfolio, you're saying?
Of your investment capital, yeah. Not your total capital, but of your investment capital. Start slow, right? Personally, I'm invested in almost 40% of my investment capital in crypto right now. But that's also because so this is the first thing. This because I understand my risk tolerance, right? So the very first thing you need to understand is your tolerance of risk. How much can you actually lose, right? This is like the first things that we learn. But then I think a lot of people are not aware of the second part, which is that you have your tolerance for earning money. So what's your tolerance for actually to take profit? So I'll give a really short story here. 2017, which I saw, that was when there was a huge boost in the market, and a lot of people who came into the market, they almost became millionaires overnight. But then in 2018 there was a crash, and because they didn't take advantage and take profit, they were now back to zero, right? So understanding in addition to risk tolerance, your take profit tolerance, like what are you going to do with that? Like if you invest, I don't know, 1,000 euros. What are you going to do with that money if it increases 20 times, right? Yeah. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to buy a new car? Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to hold on to that crypto? You need to have a plan for that. So that's like the second thing. Third thing, even before talking about specific cryptos, is that what I will do, if you're first time starting off, go to what we call CoinMarketCap. It's a webpage. Maybe you can share it somewhere later. Go to the Bitcoin USD chart, the global chart from the very beginning, right? So global charts, they start showing from 2014. And you can see ups and down market cycles. If we're very high up, you know that you're kind of buying at the top. No one knows the top. Timing is the hardest thing. But you'll know historically, you'll see that if you buy at the top, which a lot of people did in for example, end of last year. If you bought end of last year, you could see on the chart, you're actually buying at the top. You're actually doing... This is what we call the sheep herd mentality. You're doing what most people are doing. But when it's going up, but in truth, you're actually buying it more expensive, right? So try to see, look at the big chart, try to see when it's more at the bottom. Right now could be potentially, I'm not giving any financial advice. Right now, we're quite much lower. So could be a potentially good time to buy. So timing is the third thing, right? What else? There's a few more things. Of course, you need to have flexibility. Like back to my example, this is a recurring thing. I hear people like who invested in crypto, but then they went in minus, right? That's because they purchased only one time and they took a big amount, purchased it, and now they're stuck. So give yourself flexibility. Don't invest all of the amount. Let's say you do have 1,000 euros. Don't invest it all. Invest maybe like 100 euros, little by little, so you can diversify your risk. So that's what I would say, things to consider even before starting, right? Even before starting. And then when getting into it, I think if you go on, like, I think that the big crypto exchanges like Binance, they have good educational platforms. You can start watching on YouTube, learning from there, and then you will have more insight of what kind of coins. But these factors you need to take into consideration before even investing in Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency.
Which are easy to kind of forget or to avoid, because it's so easy to just start investing with just a couple of clicks on a button. It
is, and people are listening. People are seeing. This is a typical thing that we always look at what our neighbors are doing. Our neighbors are invested in crypto. He's doing quite well. So hey, you know what? I'm going to get into crypto. No, like make it as an independent decision as possible, right? And this is what I'm saying, because now what we saw earlier this year, a lot of people are just like panic selling. But actually, if you are a believer in the long-term process of this, it's a good time to buy historically, right? The prices are much lower.
There's also a nice thing that I like about real estate. The real estate, it's a long-term game. It's not always that easy. Sometimes it's easier to just get in. The entry barrier is lower, but normally the entry barrier is a little bit higher. So you need to think very well about what you're doing. And then when you're in it, don't expect immediate success. You need to work. It takes time to get success. And then the opposite almost of Bitcoin, or the easiness of entering than investing in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, whatsoever in general. Okay, this is good. A lot of information, good information, very valuable for everyone listening. Sergey, what do you think? I mean, this is blowing, even though we have been talking about it, but this is blowing the minds of a lot of listeners for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Also, it's important to mention that you hear it from somebody like us, that explains, but that is at the same time in the business. So with easy examples, easy words, I personally learned a lot.
I have a question for you guys. Why did you? So you both have invested a little, right? As I understand. Why did you invest? Just want to hear.
Just the honest answer, because everyone more or less was doing, that first, and there's always also some money to be made. At least when everything was going up. That was.
Exactly. Sergey, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just as you said, diversifying, because it's one of the direction where it could, as you say, boom, and it's definitely going to stay with us, so
that's true.
So you're just like you're just putting there and hoping that these are the cryptos that will stay with us. But to be honest, I don't personally believe in the current cryptos right now, because as you said, it's very early, but I purchased it because I know it has the potential still to grow a lot. So whether it can disappear one day, but I believe that it can grow a lot. And when it grows, I may sell, right?
Yeah.
Always that, like invest the money you can afford to lose,
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, okay, if you do have, I don't know, a few hundred euros extra over, and rather than just spending that on a weekend, I don't know, a week trip somewhere, take that money, put it in crypto. If you lose it, you lose it, but it also can go 10 times,
Right.
It's such a, if you're not doing with huge amounts, like I said, don't use too much of your capital. But if you're using small things, take that risk, because it happen. It can happen. Good things can happen. Yeah.
Good. So this is just a starting point. We will give you way more. Make sure to follow the podcast. More is coming. The next time, let's do then a deep dive, a little bit more complex topics of how you can actually apply it. Also, I want to ask you how we can apply this to real estate investing, because people are talking about NFT funds in the future, or already now that being organized or created, and how does that work? Well, in the next session, you're going to hear way more. We're almost kicked out of this session as well, so we need to now end up. Guys, thanks again. good seeing you. Thanks for all the good knowledge. Adnan, you did great.
Thanks,
And we're signing off. See you later, guys. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.